Alright, so today we're going to be talking about Meteor ball. The focus for this lesson is students should be working on communication skills within their teams to keep the ball off the ground and in bounds to score the most points in the game. The objectives I'll be covering today is that students will be able to communicate with their teammates by calling the ball throughout the game 90% of the time. That's a cognitive objective. And the second objective is going to be that students will be able to hit the ball to their teammates and or over the net to an opposing team to score a point and be successful at least every 4 out of 5 tries. And that is a psychomotor objective. The academic language being used today will be setting up an attack, court positioning, and defending a space. The NASB standards used today will be Standard 1, the physically literate individual demonstrates competency in a variety of motor skills and movement patterns, as well as Standard 2, the physically literate individual applies knowledge of concepts, principles, strategies, and tactics related to movement and performance. Safety concerns and precautions for today's lesson. Students should call "I've got it" or "I've got the ball" or something of that manner when they are going to be hitting the ball to avoid collisions with other students. Assuring you are defending your space only unless your teammates say they need help so that we don't collide into each other because we're in each other's space. And the last concern would be that keeping the ball under control and in our playing area so as not to disturb another game or station going on in a different area of the gym. Materials and equipment used today, so we're going to have 13 volleyballs or volley lights. There'll be a lot of partner stuff in the beginning, so there's 26 students, so each partner pair will need a volleyball or volley light. We're going to have a gameplay at the end where there'll be 3 games going on, so we need 3 volleyball nets and 3 badminton nets, which will crisscross one another to make like a plus or an X to set up the court. And then one of the stations is going to be like a 4-square game, so we need tape to outline those square areas. Organization and pre-teaching management. So before class, students are going to start at the whiteboard, and we're going to review the 3 types of hits used that Ryan should have talked about in the first lesson. And then at each station, I'll have cue cards taped up so that students will know what to do at each station if they're unsure, and there will be pictures for each because some of the stations can be confusing if you don't know what's going on, so a picture is kind of necessary. And then have assigned groups and teams written on the whiteboard to save time and so students know where to go right away. I'm going to show a short video at the beginning to go over the pass or bump, set, and spike / attack. And I'm going to say pass in this because that's supposed to be the correct term now. It used to be called bump though, so she's going to say bump in this video. And this video is kind of old and cheesy, but it covers it really well.
Hey guys, I'm Girls with Heart Ambassador Courtney, and today I'm going to be showing you how to bump, set, and spike a volleyball. The first thing to learn how to bump is to make sure your arms are correct. So you are going to place your arms like this and put your thumbs together and your hands on top of each other like this. So it almost makes a little...
So for the bump or pass, a good cue is going to be pancake, sausage links for your hands. One hand flat, the other hand flat, and then your thumbs together like the sausage links.
Platform on your arms. After your arms are correctly formed, you are going to bend your knees and bring your hands up. And when you're in position, make sure that your legs are spread apart and your knees are bent. Like that. That's pretty easy, right? The next step is to learn how to set. And this is how to set. So you're going to put your hands together and form a diamond. And
so a good cue for setting is to have your hands like a triangle, like she just did. And then when you put your hands over your head, pretend there is a bottle of soda and you're chugging that soda. So your triangle should be right above your head.
Then you're going to make sure you push off your fingertips. And a little note, make sure not to slap the ball against your hand. You're going to lightly push off your fingertips. And make sure your hands are above your head like this. And And this is what a set should look like. And now for step 3, and probably the most tricky, the spike. The first step to learn how to spike is to make sure that your hand is proper. You're going to make sure your hand is nice and flat.
So flat, and you swing it through kind of like a fly swatter is a good cue for a spike hand.
The next step is to bring the ball nice and high up and make sure your hand is also high, and then make contact with the ball. Alright guys, now let's give it a try. Now let's put all the steps together. Bump, set, spike. I have tried so many different sports like soccer.
Alright, so that's pretty much it for the video. Now to start out with our introduction and instant activity for the day. Students will grab a partner and a ball and spread out throughout the gym. The first thing they're going to be doing is volleying back and forth by using the forearm pass with the pancake sausage links with their partner. And a good focus for this instant activity and introduction is to have the students hitting the ball high in the air, allowing the partner to have time to get under the ball, and then that'll also be able to keep the ball under control better. So we're going to do that for about 5 minutes, and then I will stop the students and we will start the next warm-up, which would be volleying the ball back and forth and just setting to one another. Again, reminding them to set the ball high so the other partner has time to get under the ball. Again, that will be about 5 minutes, and then we'll move on to the third part. Have your partner toss the ball to you, and we're going to toss the ball high still, and have your partner spike or attack the ball with that fly swatter hand. And then your partner will just grab the ball and toss it back to you, and then you can spike or attack the ball as well. And the final activity will be trying to volley with a pass, set, spike, rally in that order. So one partner will pass, the other will spike, and then set, and then the other will spike back, and then switch back and forth who starts with the pass. So everyone gets to try each of the 3 things. And again, that will be approximately for 5 minutes. And then when that is done, we will call students back to the whiteboard, and they will place their volleyballs in the cart on the way by. This will avoid from distractions and such while I am trying to talk to the students about the stations for the day. I will briefly explain the 3 stations to the students and have them report to their assigned station, which is written on the whiteboard. Students' names are written on the whiteboard, as I just said, which station they should go to first. There will be about 8 students per station, and there's 3 stations, and I will tell them when it is time to rotate. Again, as I said earlier, there's cue cards and pictures at each station to guide the students, as well as tell them what their focus for each station should be. So beginning with Station 1, all stations are approximately 10 minutes long. The focus for Station 1 is to hit the ball high in the air to allow your teammate to get under the ball, just like in our warm-up activities. So for the first station, students are going to be in a circle with the 8 people they're in a group with, and they're going to hit the ball around in the circle, trying to keep the ball in the air for as long as they can, so as many rallies as they can. They can use any of the 3 hits, pass, set, or spike, in any order that they feel they need to, as long as they try and keep the ball in the air as long as they can. You must call the ball when you're going to hit it, and you can only hit it once before another teammate has to hit it. Now, you don't have to hit it around the circle like in a circular order. You can hit it across the circle to whomever, but you cannot hit the ball more than once in a row. And everyone should be in an athletic position, ready to move to get to the ball. For Station 2, again, approximately 10 minutes, students will be focusing on figuring out which strategies work best to make the ball hard for an opponent to receive. So this station's set up like a 4-square game, but the squares will be a little bit bigger to give people more room to move around. Your goal is to make your way to the king square by getting others out, and then staying in that king square. If the ball touches the floor in your square, or if you use more than one hit, you are out. And then students will rotate in as another student gets out. So here's a little picture of what you should be doing. And again, we need to make sure that you are defending only your space or your square. So all of these students up here, all of these students up here are going to be waiting to rotate in. The arrows show you where you're going to rotate depending on who gets out. Everyone starts at the T or the toilet and will move their way up Jack, Queen, King. So again, as I said back in this previous slide, you're going to figure out which strategies work best for you to make it hard for your opponent to receive the ball. So students should be thinking about if it's easier to make, or if it's harder to make your opponent hit the ball if you hit it, really far towards the back of their court area, or is it harder if you hit it just over the line for the students to hit the ball? So figuring out what individual strategies work best for you so you can use them in gameplay later in the day or later in the class. Station 3 is also 10 minutes, and your focus for this station is going to be using pass set spike before hitting the ball into your other opponent's court. This station can be a little confusing, but I have a picture on the next slide. So students will be on an actual Meteor ball court where there are 2 nets crossing, making a plus or an X. There will be 2 students in each part of the court in each of the 4 spaces, but you are going to be on a team of 4. So you and your partner are on a team with the 2 people next to you. Again, I'll explain that in the next picture to better understand it. The max amount of hits for each team is 3. Try to use the pass set spike in that order between you and your other 3 teammates. You score if the ball hits the ground in the other team's court or if they hit it out of bounds. So to better explain this, the pink team, or the pink X's, are going to be on the same team even though they're on different sides of the net. And then the blue team is also going to be on a different team. So when I said you can only use 3 hits, you can only use 3 hits between these pink and these pink. So if these 2 hit the ball twice or once each, and then they hit it over the net to their other teammates, they can only hit the ball once. So between the 4 of you, you can only have 3 hits on your side before the blue team has to touch the ball. And again, it's a lot easier for you to get all 3 hits in if you hit the ball higher so your teammates have time to get under the ball. And it's going to be really important to call the ball in this because you're going to be in a little bit tighter of a space having 2 people in the same court area. And for the last part of the day, we're going to have a gameplay or tournament that's going to be for 10 minutes to finish out the class. Students were going to report back to the whiteboard, put their balls away. The teams are going to be written on the board along with what court you will be at. There will be 2 teams with 3 students, and the rest will have 2 on their team. So each team is playing on their own now, so you're going to be with your partner or with 2 other people. And as we did in Station 3, you're not going to be on the same team as the people next to you at the net. You're only going to be on a team with the people in your area of the net, in your square. So rules for Meteor Ball, we kind of mixed it up today just to make it a little bit harder since we are 10th graders for this lesson. But if you wanted to play Meteor Ball with the actual equipment and stuff, I would say it's probably more of a middle school game, so that's why we made it a little bit tougher. So for a real Meteor Ball game, the beach ball is used for Meteor Ball instead of a volleyball or volley light. And this will just make it a little bit more difficult. Cones are going to be used in a real Meteor Ball game to separate the areas, and they won't have nets, but I decided to include nets today to make it a little bit harder, so you actually have to hit it up higher and over something versus just across from you. You may hit the ball 1 to 3 times between you and your teammates, but no more, and the same person cannot hit the ball 2 times in a row. If the ball hits the floor if the ball would hit the floor in my court, all other teams would score a point. So when a point is scored, 3 teams score a point, and 1 team does not. So if I can't hit the ball and it hits the floor in my court, all three other teams score a point. And if my team would hit the ball out of bounds in another court's area or my court's area, then the other three teams would score a point again. So there's always three teams going to be scoring. And I want you to keep score, as I'm going to have you guys write it on the board after the gameplay. And since there is 4 different teams and not just 2 like volleyball, I want everyone to keep track of their own score, as it could be difficult to try and keep track of 4 different scores. And a closure and summary for the day. So we'll have a class discussion, bring all the students in again to the whiteboard and ask them some questions. How did you make your hits more difficult for your opponents to receive? So as we did in the 4 square area where you're coming up with your strategies, was it harder for your opponents to hit it if you hit the ball towards the back of the area or just over the net to the front of the area? What made it more difficult for your opponents? And then how did you prevent the other teams from scoring points on you? Did you spread out? Were you on your toes? What helped you move better around your court and get to the ball? And finally, did calling the ball help you and your teammate work together better? And yes, it should have, because then students know who's got the ball, and if the other person doesn't call it, then obviously I should go get it. Homework for the day, you're going to have the students write down 3 strategies that worked really well for them and their teammate during the game, and 3 strategies that didn't work so well or maybe they could improve on. And that's Meteor Ball. Thanks.